stick that in. So thank you to those earlier presenters. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. Again, my name's Gretchen Lawn. I work at the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio, and I have discovered that not all educational service centers are the same. So in Ohio, we are the liaison between the Department of Education and the districts. So where I'm at, I support over 50 school districts, Cleveland, Akron, and kind of everywhere in between. They're not based on county, they're based on whichever ESC they prefer, that they're kind of closest to. So that's why we have over 50. So I work with HR directors in small districts, big districts, urban districts, rural districts, suburban districts. So what I'm sharing today is doable in any district. Also, work with alternative schools, charter schools, community schools. Most recently, we've started to implement some of these topics, ideas, I guess, that I'm going to talk about today in an alternative behavior school. So if you're like, this may not work for me, I bet it will. But I'd be happy to talk more about that if you do have questions. That is also my email if you need me. Please, 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 please reach out. And I do have 24 years in education. I was just telling Emily, if you were on earlier, I taught for 9. I was the principal for 12. And I've been working at the ESC for 3. My math might be slightly off. I don't ever really know how many years I've worked until I get my letter from my retirement and they say, this is how many years. So it's around there. All right, so let's dive in though. This is my house. It's cute. I like it. Good news, that snow on the ground is not there now. It is May 2nd. If there was snow on the ground right now, I'd be really, really sad. So that's clearly a picture from winter-ish. It is sunny right now. My windows are open, so no snow. But that's my house. This is my home. This is my bathroom. I know it's super weird to start with the bathroom, but I like my wallpaper. Isn't it cool? It's just that stick and peel stuff. You too can buy this wallpaper and stick and peel it in your bathroom. This is my pool because I don't have a real one. This does its job. Plus I can move it and then my grass doesn't get ruined. This is when raw sewage entered my house and they had to literally dig up that much of my basement. So that's pretty cool. This is my Christmas tree. Why is that? Because I love having my Christmas tree up and I literally keep it up as much as possible. So the light, I just like the ambiance. These are 2 little baby deaf dogs I fostered. Aren't they the cutest in the world? And then these are my real dogs. So these 3. This is my home. Every one of these pictures is my home, even the bad ones, right? So even the picture of the raw sewage picture still makes my home my home. So when I talk to you about onboarding, I want you to know that in my words, what onboarding is. It's the difference between a house and a home. The onboarding is all about making work not feel like a place or a building, but making it a place that has feeling and emotion and value and contributes to a person's life. So if you can make work or school or whatever feel like a home, it will have those emotional attachments to it. And it will not just be a place that people go and then leave at the end of the day. So my first question to you, and you can drop it in the chat if you want, you can come on mic and talk to me. I like people. It's fun that way. I also know you've been sitting a lot this morning, so feel free to talk to me. Don't feel like you have to. Have you ever worked at a place that felt like home? And if you have, you don't have to tell me where, unless you really want to, but why? What about it made it feel like home? So in the chat, and if you didn't, it's okay. I'm sorry that you didn't. I wish you did. Maybe we can make your place now feel like home. But if you did, why? Why did that particular place feel like home? Thank you, the people. We got one. Anybody else? Yep, people, connections, people. I'm gonna let it go for another couple seconds, but people, caring people, the team, love, people, and a fully stocked break room. Yes. Never had one of those. People and the atmosphere. So I bet I could let this go for another 10 minutes and you would all probably say people. Relationships, yep, that's it. That's what makes it feel like home. Okay. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I'm going to talk about someone else's words now. So these are the stats, and you've heard some of these this morning. I know, because I heard them too. So I'm going to put them all on the screen and let you look at all these. These are from various reports, from various references, from various studies. The thing about studies and references is, depending on who they surveyed, the numbers might change a little bit. So if you were in something different this morning and you heard a different stat, it's probably surveyed a little bit different people, but it's all close. And it all speaks about what you all just said: connections. Onboarding can help with culture, and it can help with retention. You get your passion and purpose at work. And if you're highly engaged, you're less likely to leave. I Googled employee engagement because I'm like, all right, that's all well and good, but what's employee engagement? And P.S., if you do that, you're going to come up with like 900 answers. So I like this one. This one says it's the emotional commitment an employee has to the organization. So again, that emotional feeling, that feeling of home. How can we make our work feel like home? So let's start with, if you don't already know, and you should, because I attended some of these this morning too, and they were really good. If you don't already know what onboarding is, I'm going to give you a visual. Onboarding is about a 10th orientation. Orientation is your paperwork, your policies, your programs, your training. It's about a 10th. It's about 40% mentoring. Actually, that's 50. See, my math is not great today. 50% mentoring, career development, okay, growing people. When I am talking to you about onboarding today, I am not just talking about your teachers. I am talking about your bus drivers. I'm talking about your custodians. I am talking about your paraprofessionals. I'm talking about your teachers. I'm talking about your admin. I'm talking about everyone. Everyone needs either a mentor or a development path of some sort. And then the other 40% is everything else. Anything else that helps increase their engagement and is personalized to what they need. Onboarding is all of it. It is everything that acclimates someone to their role. In Ohio, we have orientation, and we typically have mentoring for our teachers because it is a state mandated program. It's that other 40% that is lacking in a lot of our schools. However, we don't have mentoring programs mandated for any of the other roles other than teachers. So we're going to be talking about how we can do all of it, because it all is onboarding. So Gallup, we love those guys. They talk a lot about employee engagement and retention, but they believe that these are the 5 questions that should be answered by onboarding. You can look at them. You can read them to yourself, but I want you to think about your onboarding program right now, however big or small it is. If it is 1 day, if it is 3 days, if it is 2 weeks, if it is 3 years, I don't know. Think about your program, and does it answer these questions just in your head? Because Gallup also says that they believe it should take about 1 year for most people to come up with the answer to all these questions. That's a long time. It's a long time. But we're going to talk about how we get there, okay? And realistically, not everyone will probably need that 1 year. Some might need more. So let's dive in. I'm going to have you, if you want and if you can, annotate. If you've never used the annotate feature on Zoom, I'm going to teach you. It's super fun. If you have, cool. So at the top of your screen, it should show me, maybe you, not sure, but it should say you're viewing my screen, and there should be a view options. If you are driving, do not do this. I love you, and I don't want you to be injured in any way. So only if you're at your computer. When you click on that down arrow next to view options, a bunch of things show up. One of the things should be annotate. If you find it, click it. Then more things will show up. One of those things will be stamp. Click on that. More things will appear. Those are stamps. Some of you already found that. I see you. So pick a stamp. If you picked draw, it's not going to be as exciting. If you pick spotlight, it's not going to be exciting. You need to pick a stamp. Tina did it. Good job. Any of the stamps doesn't matter to me. You can pick the question mark, star. You're up to you. And then I know you'll found it because you'll get excited and you'll start clicking all over the screen. Go ahead. I know you want to. So as soon as you pick a stamp, click all over the screen because you know you want to. If you want to remove your stamp, you can go to the eraser and do that. I will also just delete them because I'm going to do that right now. So let me click on my annotate and I'm going to delete yours. So even though you're excited, I'm going to have you stop for 1 second. Stop clicking. Okay. Because we're going to go to the next screen and I want you to actually annotate now for real. Are you an early bird or a night owl? So there we go. I don't have to give you directions. Y'all got it. Put your little stamp in the correct box of what you are. Lindsay, I feel like that's cheating. Early bird or night owl, you're in the middle. I'm okay with it. Some days probably you are and some days you're not. Go ahead. Tell me, are you in the middle? Whitney's cheating too. It's okay. You're allowed. I'm never a night owl. Like even on the weekends, I go to bed at like 10. I'm that person and I eat dinner at like 5. Or earlier. I'm that person. Okay. Now that we've all practiced, I'm gonna delete you all.
Eraser.
Lindsay, is it okay if I mute you? Did you know you're not muted?
Oh my gosh. No,
you can talk to me too. Okay. You can talk though. Okay. So I'm gonna delete you all and we're gonna go to the next one because these are the ones that was just practice. Here's the next one. Do you think your district needs a onboarding overhaul, or you just need a tweak? If you want to put it in the middle this time, you can. Don't worry. I won't say you're cheating. Okay. All right. So the 3 are in the tweaking. That's good. I'm hoping that you've heard some today and you're like, yeah, it's not as bad as I thought for some of you. And for some of you are like, uh-oh, that's okay. That's why we are here to help and why we're doing this entire day on onboarding. All right, next one. I know I got rid of you again. Those 5 questions, remember those? Do you think your onboarding program currently answers them fully, or you're not sure, or no, they're not answered? Okay. We got a middle again. Probably some are answered and some aren't. That's fine. All right. I think there's one more. So I'm going to clear you again. We're going to go with that last one. Do you have high turnover rates in your district? Or are there no or minimal retention issues? If you don't want to answer this one, don't feel like you have to. Also, Lindsay with the middle again, love it. Don't feel like you have to answer this one, though. I understand this, is, especially in May, can be a challenging one to answer. Okay. Well, the good news is we're kind of everywhere. Turnover rates, a good onboarding program really has to do with retention too. So if we can get ourselves a really good onboarding program, we're hopefully going to get rid of some of those retention issues that some of us may have as well. Okay, it's up to you if you want to keep your annotate on or not, but for right now, you don't need it. Okay, so for today, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build a house. Essentially, that's what we're going to do. That's why there's no place like home. Again, those of you who wanted Wizard of Oz, we'll do it at the end, but we're going to build a house. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to start with the frame of the house, which is the onboarding components. Then we're going to design with retention in mind. So how are we going to design our onboarding so that we are improving culture and people want to stay? Then I'm going to give you some ideas and suggestions. So we're picking out the furniture, and then we're going to prioritize by analyzing our data. So let's look at our mortgage and bills and see if we did a good job. All right. We're building that house. So who needs onboarding? Starting there. New teachers. Everybody knew that one. Experienced teachers. We forget them sometimes. If they move to a new building, they're new. They need to be onboarded to that building. If you're like, really? Well, maybe not. If you have a district who's K-12 in one building, maybe not, but maybe they do. Even if you have a campus, principals are different, teachers are different, students are different, expectations are different. Alternative licensure teachers, I don't know if you have those in your state. We have those in Ohio. They need onboarding. Support staff, psychologists, tutors, OT, PT, all those people, your administrators. I loved this morning's presentation about how to onboard administrators. If you didn't see it, go watch, go to the slide decks that you got with these presentations. Theirs was very good, and it had some great ideas about how to onboard administrators and our classified staff. There's one more group that gets missed too. That's our substitute teachers. I work with substitute teachers all the time, and that's all they ever say is, I just want a map of the building, or I just want to know where to park, or I just want to know where to eat, or I just want to know where the crisis binder is. Like little tiny things that we forget. So if you don't have your own subs or you don't onboard them, consider them when we're talking today. So when we are talking today, we are talking about every single one of these people. Okay, paraprofessionals or aides, I put out here because some people put them with their classified staff, some people put them with their support staff. It doesn't matter how you list them or where they are in your district, just they're there. So don't forget about them either, because they're huge. All right, before we jump into building our house, does anybody have any questions so far? I really haven't said anything, but do you have any questions so far? Okay. So we're going to focus on these 4 onboarding components. Here's what I will say. You are busy. You are overwhelmed. In some of my districts, there's one HR director and that's it. And they've got to do compliance. They've got to do legal issues. They've got to do staff discipline. They've got to do investigations, and they have to do recruitment. I know everything you have to do. It's a lot. So I understand that what this is asking you to do is a lot. So I'm going to say this. If you walk away from this going, there's no way I can do this, I can implement this onboarding process, fine. But maybe you could implement one this year, and maybe you can implement one the next year. We don't have to do everything all at once. So when we do start thinking about like, how are we going to try to do things? Let's go slow. Pick one. So we're going to start with the garage. Weird place to start, but I want you to think about your garage, and I want you to think about pulling into your garage. What is the best part about a garage? Chat it up if you want, or come on, Mike. What is the best part about your garage? Some of you who use your garage as like a place to hang out, that's not what I mean. I mean like pulling into your garage when you get home, being organized to fit the cars. I do love that. Tools, keeps the truck warm at night. You must live in a snow state. Same as me. Safety, security. Love it. Being able to fit the car in, again, especially in the winter, again, must be a northern state. Storage space, all those are fabulous things. When I think about my garage though, what I think about is when I'm gonna come home from work and I pull in that garage, I'm immediately calm. Okay. That's how I feel when I pull in my garage. I know I'm about to walk into my house and I know what I'm going to find. Well, not always, but I know most likely what I'm going to find. And no matter what it is I'm going to find, I'm calm and I'm excited about it. Okay. I might find that. That'd be nice. Look at how cute those kids are. Look at how clean that couch is. I might find that. That would be a great way to end my day. I also might find this, and that's okay too, because it's still my calm space, right? So whatever you find when you come home, it's your calm space, but it's what you see when you walk in the door. The garage for your new people is when they pull in that first day. Do you want them to feel calm and ready to go? Or do you want them to feel like, what in the world is about to happen? So we're going to talk about pre-boarding and what you wish you would have known before your first day, because 64% of people don't get any pre-boarding. And 65% of people say that people have accepted positions and not shown up. So pre-boarding is anything and everything you do between the day you hire someone and the day they start. I was listening to the person who was doing the unofficial onboarding last session, and she was like, wouldn't it be nice if we just told people where the best coffee shop was? That is pre-boarding. Tell them ahead of time. Send them a letter in the summer and be like, hey, do you want to know where the best coffee is? Here's where it is. Pre-boarding is making sure that they're prepared the first day before the first day. So when you think about your first day of your job, whatever job it was, what do you wish you would have known? Come on, Mike, or throw it in the chat. I'm making you work for it today. I'm sorry. If you just wanted to sit, you can still do that. But I like participation. It makes me happy. Also, I taught 5th grade, so I have excellent wait time. But maybe people don't want to participate. You don't have to. It's okay. I'll tell you what I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known where I was supposed to eat. I didn't know. Again, the unofficial one, she talked about that a lot. She talked about eating a lot. So she must really like that, or she must have had a bad experience with that. Yep. Same. Lunch. I wish I would have known how lunch works. 100%. In her situation, she said everybody ate together and she didn't know. I mean, small things like, do you eat together? Do you not eat together? Did you pack a lunch? Do you not pack a lunch? Closest bathroom. Yes. Closest bathroom is huge. I mean, what about even like who you can talk to and who you can't? What about who your neighbor is, who's not? There's a ton that you can give people before their first day so that they feel prepared. We're not expecting everybody to be experts, but there's information that we can share with them. So again, that garage is that pre-boarding. What are you doing to support them between the day they're hired and the day they start? So let's talk about that feeling when you pull in your garage. How do you make that feeling happen? As easy as a call or an email from an admin or a supervisor or the rest of the staff in that building. How about post your welcome on social media or a website? They have signing days for athletes. Let's do signing days for bus drivers. Will it work? I don't know. Maybe. Because I'll tell you what, guess who's on social media more than teachers even is your classified staff. They're on social media because they're on it with their families. So if you post a picture and you're like, here's signing day, they're going to forward that and share that. And you've just gotten 1 million more followers. What else? Anything that can assist with navigation. So anything that helps with how they navigate the building or the department, or give them a campus tour, give them a district tour, drive them around on a bus and show them where all the kids live. Anything that navigates the interior of the building, the exterior of the building, how you get around from one building to another, if there's a door they're supposed to use, if there's a door they're not supposed to use, where they're supposed to park, all that fabulous stuff. What tools can you give them? Can you give them paperwork to do ahead of time so that they're not doing paperwork all their first day? What about community connections and resources? Some banks will offer checking accounts, savings accounts. They'll match funds for new staff. Look into that and give those things to people. Pizza places, coffee places, bank locations, churches, whatever it is, sharing those community things will help people who don't live in your community. And then that like a toolbox that you can give them, a welcome package. It could be FAQs. Maybe you have a mission that you say on the announcement every morning, or maybe you have the schedule that you want to put in there. Maybe the acronyms you're not sure they know, or your company values, your building values, swag. I know, again, this morning's onboarding admin one that I went to is all about the swag. That's fine. People love swag, but give them more than just swag, right? Give them something so that they are ready to go on that first day. And they're not just dressed beautifully, right? In your clothes, in your district's outfits, but they also know some information. Does anybody else have any other pre-boarding ideas? I know this is my presentation, but like you're all in it too. So if anybody has any other thing you do for pre-boarding that you think anybody on this it's not a chat, webinar could benefit from, please feel free to put it in the chat because we all love ideas. One district hired One district hired like a professional photographer to come. And so their badge for that first year was like a really nice professional picture. And they posted those on social media too. They post them on their LinkedIn profile, all that stuff. Okay. Well, if you think of anything, feel free to add it because people will benefit from it. All right. Then we move from the garage into the living room. All right. So let's think about that living room. What feelings are associated with your living room? What do you do in your living room? You guys aren't very chatty today, so I may just keep going, but I'll leave it for a second. See if anybody wants to say what they do in their living room. Relax, beautiful. Comfort, relax, take a load off. Thanks. Zone out. I do that all the time. Talk with family, watch TV, love it. These are perfect. Okay. This is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you, everybody, for participating. So the living room is a safe space. It is a safe space for you to read, to watch TV, to play games, to talk to your family, to be relaxed, be in your jammies, to be under a blanket, whatever. It's also for me a place to grow because this is where I read and this is where I watch documentaries. There's been some really good ones too that if you haven't seen My Octopus Teacher, put it in your queue. It's on Netflix, or it was. I don't know if it's still there. My Octopus Teacher, do it. Okay, so your living room then is aligned to the workspace of the individual. All right, it is their workspace. I didn't pick the office on purpose. We'll talk about it in a second. But this is their workspace. So a classroom if they're a teacher, an office if that's what they have, the bus if they're a bus driver, their workstation if they don't have an office or they don't have a classroom, the cafeteria, their safe space. All right, this is what relates to the living room, their workspace. Why do I say that? Because in 2022, Gallup did a survey. What is the most common reason for leaving an employer? Okay, pay was about 20%. And this wasn't specific to education, by the way, but these were the other three. If you want to turn your annotate back on, if you remember how to do it, yes, Christy, good job. Maybe you've annotated before. Put your little mark by whichever one you think is the most common reason that people leave an employer. I'm waiting for people to turn theirs back on. Okay, I'm going to show you the answer. I don't know that any of you are going to be surprised. Even though you're kind of all over the place, I'm going to say what I say. So here are the most common. Culture was 52%. 52. Half of the people who left their job, they said was because of culture. Pay was 20. Career development, specifically 14, and managers and leaders are 13. Here's what I say though. I say all of it's culture. All of it's culture. Because if your pay is a problem, people are not happy. If they're not being developed in their career, they're not happy. If there's nowhere to go, if the manager and leader is not supportive, the culture is probably not good either. So even though this is what this study showed, I'm going to say it's probably even more culture if we really start to think about what does this do to culture, what does this do to culture, and what does pay do to culture. So that's just my little 2 cents on that one. Okay, so I found this quote, and it is my favorite quote I've ever heard about culture. It is how employees' hearts and stomachs feel about Monday morning on Sunday night. I'm gonna let that sit. So I want you to think back to your Sunday night coming into Monday. How did your heart feel and how'd your stomach feel? Because that says a lot about the culture of the place you work. Now, we all know that, if you had a long weekend, maybe you weren't ready to go back to work, but how did your heart and your stomach feel? Now, how tired were you? Now, how exhausted were you? Now, how did your brain feel? Heart and stomach. That is a huge, huge thought when I think about that in relationship to culture. If you steal that quote, I don't know who that guy is. I don't know what he does. I don't know who he is, but I love that quote. And I've used it so many times because I think that really gets at the heart of what culture is. Okay. So the living room is specifically, in my onboarding opinion, about mentoring and career development. It is about growing our staff in the skills they need for the role they're in now and the role they're in for their future. We should never be fine letting people just be okay in the role they're in. We should be developing people to the role they want to be in their future as well. So let's look about how we can do that. We can give mentors, all right? And some districts already do that. But if we don't have enough people to assign a mentor to everybody, we don't have a mentor bus driver, we don't have a mentor secretary or administrative assistant, we can still provide career development towards safe space that fosters growth. So light bulb moments, what are the best practices for what works in that role? So for any role, we need to be making sure that our people in that role know what works. Who's going to tell them that? I don't know. Maybe a supervisor, maybe a mentor. We'll talk about a collaborative colleague in a second. We should be talking to them about time management for their role. How are we planning and prioritizing? How are we organizing? We should be making sure they have all the resources they need and they know where to find it if they don't have it. It is their space. So we should make sure that they feel safe in it, safe to take risks, safe to try new things, safe to get comfortable. Now, a classroom, we can decorate. A bus, we can kind of decorate. We can't go too crazy. Can't make it distracting, right? But like cafeteria, we can decorate. They can decorate. It needs to be a safe space for the people who work in it, though. And then lastly, we should be really focused on personalized learning. So what are we doing specifically to that person so that they get the skills, the training, whatever they need for that role? Okay, so I want to talk to you about why I did not choose the office or the den. This is my living room caveat. You don't get the same feelings about a den as you do a living room or an office or whatever you want to call it. I chose the living room on purpose because what you guys said, comfort, relax, safe space. You don't want to hang out in your office typically, unless your office is really cool. You don't watch documentaries there unless you watch them on your laptop, but that's not comfortable to me. You probably don't sit in there and read books unless you guys have the coolest office in the world. I guess I should have made a little asterisks about that, and you have couches and stuff, but you go there to work. And that is not the feeling we want when we're talking about onboarding. We want people to feel like it's their living room, like it's home. We want to personalize the learning of our staff. Everyone needs some things, but not everyone needs all things. So if they need a CDL, let's get it to them. If they need grading software training, let's get it to them. We want to tell them what we want them to know, but we also want to find out what they want to know. Okay, when we don't just assign people, here's a book to read for your personal learning. We offer suggestions. People ask us all the time, what are you reading? What should I read? What documentary did you watch? What TV show did you just finish or whatever? Great. Those are all good things. But if that is not something of interest to them, we still might want them to watch it, but they should be able to take those learning opportunities for things that they are interested in as well. So can you have a mentor for every role? I would love for there to be one. I know that that's not possible in all districts or all settings. But if you are not able to have a mentor for every role, there really should be a learning plan for every department based on whatever the district plan is. So there should be goals for every department. There should be needs for every department. And then there should be a plan for every department. Not just fifth grade, not just bus drivers, not just nurses. There's been a lot of times in districts I've been at where we've forgotten people on PD day. We've forgotten groups, and they've had to attend a training that didn't apply to them. If we're developing learning plans specific to departments, that hopefully won't happen. We should be able to give people what we need them to take, and also things that are goals or needs of those departments. Questions so far? All right. Here's where I blow your mind. Not really. Maybe. Kitchen. Finish the sentence. My kitchen is the what of my house. In the chat, please. All you people who are participating that I love so much. I don't know what your first name is, B. Rossman, but I love that you did that. That makes me so happy. I just want you to know that. Most active meeting place hub. What else? Heart, brand. Thank you, Brandy. I appreciate you. Okay. Gathering place. Yeah. So my kitchen is the heart and soul of my house. And again, Brandy, and Brandy and I think it was Lindsay also said heart. Yes, heart. Kitchen is my heart. Not only because I like to cook, but it doesn't matter how many times I have people over my house. We never leave the kitchen. I don't even have to clean the rest of my house. I don't know why I do. It's probably similar in your house too. We don't leave the kitchen. So the kitchen is that heart and the soul. That is where you gathering place with your friends. That is where you gather with your family. And it's usually a heck of a lot of fun in that kitchen. Okay. Here's a picture. This is not my kitchen, but it could be. I found this one randomly online when I searched kitchen, but I'm guessing these people are saying that there's this big piece of lettuce in this bowl of tiny salad. I don't know, but this could easily be my kitchen because it looks nonsensy. And that's what happens in my kitchen. Just a bunch of nonsense. And that's what should happen. It should be the fun part, the heart and soul of your house. So the kitchen is where I'm going to call these collaborative colleagues. And this is where we're going to make sure that our staff feel acclimated to the culture and nuances of the building. If you do not do anything else, I highly recommend this is the one component you try to figure out a plan for. And the reason I say that is because this is the one that focuses the most on culture. And this will be the one that focuses then the most on retention. So if you can find a way to make collaborative colleagues work, I think that's probably the priority. So what is a collaborative colleague, a peer partner? In that first session I was in, that onboarding administrators, they called it a go-to. Fine. I don't care what you call it. It is that person. What they are is they are a partner. They're a partner to every new employee for about 6 months or a year, depending on how long it's needed. They offer that advice. They offer that guidance about day to day. They encourage, they listen, they have answers, and they're just there to help. Now you're like, I don't have enough people to do this. You might need to have 2 people with 1 collaborative colleague. You might need to have 3. You might need to have 4. You might have a department where there's only 1 person that is able to be a collaborative colleague. Fine, then that person is that collaborative colleague for all the new hires. In one of the sessions I was in, they were talking about, do you pay these people? I don't know. I've had different districts do it differently. Sometimes no, they volunteered because they know how important it is. Other districts, there's like a step on the ladder where maybe there is like a head administrative assistant or there's a senior paraprofessional, and that person might be that collaborative colleague. So that is, your district to decide, but I highly recommend this because again, why 6 months to a year? 90% of people decide whether they're going to stay or leave within the first 6. They may not leave after the first 6, but they're deciding. Okay. Again, if you have a mentor, the collaborative colleague can be the same person. Doesn't have to be, but it can be. And again, I kind of mentioned this already, but there can be 1 person each department. So the paraprofessional or culture creator, I just made that up. Seems good, but it could be for, that person could help mentor all those people, whether it's a career ladder, a pay raise, a supplemental, or they're just doing it because they want to help promote your culture. So what are they going to do? Well, they're going to talk. And we know you don't get coffee with just anyone. So their job is to be their coffee person, to talk with them, to sit, talk, listen, share, vent, cry, whatever you need to do. They're also there to help measure success. So, hey, do you know how to do this now? Cool. Do you not know how to do this? Let's work on that. Whatever it is. They're solutions-oriented people, though. So they're not, you have to choose these people wisely. You don't want to choose just anybody because it's very possible that the new people will come upset, complaining. That person is, supposed to promote the culture, not detract from it. So make sure that they're offering solutions, they're offering actions. They're not just allowing a person to vent or worse, venting back. They're giving them tools. Okay, tools for success, whatever those tools are. And then they're helping put everything together. So how do we make sure everything in this district works? How do we make sure it works? Not just, the culture pieces, but the career development pieces, the students, the parents, every piece of it. How do we tie it all together? It is not enough to have a culture handbook. I've also been in too many places where they have one and it sits on a shelf, or they have one and you still talk to people and it's not great culture. Okay, it's still not enough to just schedule outings. Not everybody likes outings. Not everybody participates in outings. So how can we do this within that school day? Typically. Last step is the dining room. I want you to think about your dining room if you have one. And if you don't have one, think about dining rooms you've seen. What happens at the dining room table, or how would you describe your dining room? And if you had your dining room in your kitchen, then I want you to think about a different dining room, like a separate dining room. If you don't have one, think about the ones you've seen on television or your friends. Good conversations. Formal space that collects stuff. Christy, I feel like your house is probably similar to mine. Formal, not relaxed. Love it. Okay, we'll jump on, but feel free to add more. Again, not used much. Beautiful. All these are exactly what I was thinking. A dining room is a very formal place. It's mine sometimes is used as an office. Sometimes it's where I make big decisions. If I got to sit my family down and talk finances, it's probably going to be at the dining room. Occasionally, this is where my family meetings occur. Occasionally, this is where I eat on like holidays, but for the most part, my dining room table is a collector of things. That is it. And it gets cleaned when people are about to come over. That's about it. In a more formal place, it's almost, I have friends who their dining room's always like set beautifully, but it's never used. Okay. We're going to talk about what happens at the dining room is supervisor support, which I would say is number 2, because supervisors need to be supporting our new people, whoever the supervisors are. What's the most important part of the onboarding process? 1-to-1 time with direct supervisors. That's it. This is from a different study. 1-to-1 time with a direct manager was the most important thing over and over and over again. Outline of performance goals, that still comes with that direct manager, right? The list of people to meet, exposure to leadership, that all comes from that direct manager. Here's another one. How often would you prefer to have performance conversations with your manager? Weekly was the number 1 answer. I don't know if any of you have weekly conversations with your people or with your manager about performance, but that's how often people want them. The next most is monthly. So just pause on a second and think about how often you either have them with your people that you evaluate or how often you have them with your manager. This is how often people want these meetings. So we're going to make sure that they happen for new people. Okay, whether it's bus driver, transportation director, cafeteria worker, food services supervisor, business operations director, whoever it is, grant manager, grant supervisor, whatever roles, whoever the people are and the supervisors, these meetings should be happening. So I want you to think about you right now. You don't have to answer these. I just want you to think. Did you meet with your supervisor when you first started to talk about your performance goals? Have you met with your supervisor one-on-one in the last 10 days? Did you meet with all of your new employees, if you are the supervisor, to discuss their performance goals? Have you met with your employees, if you have them, one-on-one in the last 10 days? Have you held a skip meeting in the past 6 months? Do you know what a skip meeting is? A skip meeting, A skip meeting, I like that we just put no. I'm guessing no is probably many of these, but a skip meeting is when you meet with not your the people who report directly to you, but the people directly underneath them. So if you're a curriculum, if you're a special ed supervisor, you're not necessarily meeting with the special ed teachers, you're meeting with the paraprofessionals or aides, so that you can have those relationships, but also learn very interesting information. Have you checked with building leaders or supervisors to see how often they're meeting with new employees? Have you determined which ones are having performance conversations weekly, monthly, etc.? Have you established which ones have the best retention percentages and why? These are all just questions for you to think about. I would bet that the best retention percentages come from those supervisors who are meeting frequently with their staff to talk about whatever it is that they need. Okay, so here's supervisor support. Stuff, they can talk about stuff outside of school. How do we communicate with parents? What meetings do you need to attend? How can we involve families? How do I want you to involve families? How do I want you to communicate with people? And again, this is not just for your teachers. Think about everybody. Your superintendent should probably meet with your principals and have these conversations too. How do we want the principals to communicate with parents? How often do we want principals to attend family engagement things, football games, soccer games, whatever it is? We can also talk about things that are occurring in the seats. So student behavior guidelines, PBIS policies, de-escalation, all those kinds of things. Office tools that we could give them, expectations for how often we're doing assessments or what assessments look like, grading policies. All of these things can be what the supervisor is talking to their new employees about. Teams, what groups we want these people to be on, what committees, how we want them to collaborate with colleagues, diversity, inclusion, and equity, any of it. Again, if it's bus drivers or cafeteria workers or custodians, they're not going to have expectations for curriculum, but they're going to have expectations for their roles as well. And then transparency, huge. We need to be transparent with our people. What are their expectations? What are their goals? What are their performance reviews? So let's talk about the data, the mortgage now. If you've bought a house, you know that those first 30 to 90 days are the most important. I bought one during the pandemic. You saw my sewage picture. You know. The most important time, though, is those first 90, because that's when you get your home inspections, usually before. That's when warranties come into play, and that's when any of your contract clauses come into play. Well, the first 30 to 90 are so important for your new people as well, because of these stats right there. I'm not going to read them to you. Y'all know how to read. But we're talking 30% of people left their job within the first 90 days because they didn't feel acclimated to the role. That's a lot of people. Okay. So when we go back to those questions, those 5 onboarding questions, those first 3 months, you should hit those 5 questions hard. However your program is set up, these 5 questions should be 100% hit hard those first 3 months. Okay. This stat is another huge one. 72% have settled in within 3 months, 22 by 9. That's 94% of people have settled in 9 months. If we can get them there in a positive way and want them to stay, that's great. How can we do this now? We're going to match our mentors and our peer partners wisely. I also went to the generational divides training. Match your people wisely. Make sure that if you're matching collaborative colleagues or peer partners or whatever you want to call them, that they have something in common so they feel comfortable talking to each other. Okay. Ensure that weekly or bi-weekly check-ins with supervisors, mentors, peers are scheduled and happening. Allow for shadowing if you need to, and conduct walkthroughs to see who needs additional support. Don't worry, I'm going to give you some resources in a second, right here, in fact. So what are you talking about at those check-ins? Make sure there's an agenda. You know, if you don't have an agenda, they're not going to happen. Or like someone's going to say, well, what do you want to talk about? And then they're going to say, I don't know. What do you want to talk about? Have an agenda. Have it written. Again, that onboarding admin one this morning, If you didn't go to it, go get those resources, because they had some fabulous potential topics to talk to with new administrators during that first year. Okay, but it should happen either with a mentor, a partner, a supervisor, however you're pairing people, at least for the first 3 months. Should happen weekly or biweekly. Have that agenda. Here's some things you could talk about. Here's some resources. This is a peer partner for a new teacher. So you could certainly, as soon as possible, there could be a meet and greet. Hopefully you guys can see my screen and it actually transferred. Oh, good. You could talk about who does what. Huge question. Who to call if you have an emergency. You can talk about student behavior. You can talk about programming questions or planning time, parent communication. Here is just a list of things that a peer partner can talk to a new teacher about. Here's what a supervisor can talk about with a new teacher. Again, different things, different reasons, different conversations. So we talked about parents with our teachers. It's going to be different conversations with parents with their supervisor. Well, then what? Then you need to assess, because we don't know if it's working if we don't assess. I'll show you this Gallup survey if we have time, but there should always be some sort of survey after 30, 60, or 90 days. You pick. Remember though, that 3 months, people pretty much have made their decision. So if you are like, I want to talk to them before that, then give it 30 days or give it 60 days. But ask these questions. You can use the same one mid-year or end year. Ask the 5 questions of onboarding. Ask different questions. Ask these questions. Just make sure that your people feel supported, because after 6 months is when they decide if they're going to leave. And then after 90 days, focus, you as the HR department or the building leaders, whoever you assign this to, needs to go back to each individual new person and figure out who needs what. So who's struggling to acclimate to culture and what can we do? Who's struggling with any of our training? Who needs a new mentor because it didn't work for whatever reason? Can all of our staff answer these questions? And if any of these are not good, we got to fix it, because we have time, because we're only 3 months in at this point. If we don't check and we don't fix after those 3 months, we might lose those people. And what are short-term and long-term goals for each staff member? If we can think of it at that point. 90 days might be too early to come up with those, but it's at least a starting point. So connecting back to those onboarding components, remember, we're talking about pre-boarding. We're talking about that workspace and that living room. We're talking about that culture, making those connections, and then making sure we support. So if you're not tracking these 8 metrics, I would. You can download them later, so you don't have to read through all these, but I would absolutely be sure that you're tracking by manager too. And your retention rate, track by low performer and high performer, because if you're only losing low performers, is that a bad thing? But if you're losing all your high performers, that's something that needs to be addressed. Okay. Employee feedback, perception data, engagement data, survey data, that's all proactive. These metrics, they're reactive. There's not much you can do after you know these answers to these questions. All right. I promised you we'd get to the Wizard of Oz. So here we are, because there's no place like home is also the Wizard of Oz. So here's what I'll say. As I've already said once before, you cannot do this alone. You have the scarecrow, you need brains, right? You have brains, but you need more, because this is not something you can do alone. You need your supervisors, you need your leaders, you need some fabulous collaborative colleagues that you can pair with people. You need people. So find people to make you smarter. The line was lacking courage. Well, you're going to be changing past practices. It's not going to be easy. So you're going to need some courage too. It's hard. It's hard to change. Okay. Tin Man needed a heart. Well, you're the biggest cheerleader. So you need to believe that this will work. You need to believe in this process before you're working on it. That's why I say, if you pick one thing, start small. That might be that best way to have that heart. What did Toto bring to the team? Toto kept getting in trouble. He was that obstacle, right? Like the monkey stole him, and then he pulled back. Well, he did pull back the curtain on the wizard, but obstacles will happen. So if you can be prepared for them, prepare for them. If you can't, react and adapt. And lastly, Dorothy was the leader. And I'll tell you, her leadership style is one of my favorites because it's participatory leadership. She is not telling people what to do. She believes that the group has knowledge. Okay. And the group needs to know and believe in the goal and feel as if their voice matters. I will tell you this, I do not like at all the word buy-in, because to me, buy-in occurs after you've made a decision. And now you are trying to get people to agree with your decision. Realistically, you're trying to change people's minds if they don't believe in it. You're trying to get people to do something that you want them to do. Okay. If you're really good at motivating, you can make buy-in happen. If you're not, it's a lot more challenging. My personal thing is, instead of saying buy-in, let's get it out of our system. Let's authentically engage others in the process from the beginning so that they have ownership, accountability, and commitment. And bring those detractors in from the beginning. Put them on those teams, because they're going to start saying all the reasons it's not going to happen. So you're going to know in advance everything you need to address. Okay, I heard this from somebody I respect greatly. He said there is, and now my screen is not moving, your network is your net worth. I believe that. We cannot work in isolation. We cannot be a team of one. So we need to make sure that our network is all of this and strong. So your team, start thinking about it. Who's on it? Who's your first follower? Make sure it's a diverse membership, all departments, multiple positions, multiple experience levels. Who's going to make you smarter, not just with your brain, your talents, your skills, your perspectives, new ideas. Today, I want you to think about who's going to be on your list. I want you to think about your goal for implementation. Do you want to do all of it? Do you want to start with something? Do you want to start with something in August? That's not far away. Do you want to start with something in December? Can you mid-year? And then I want you to set a short-term win for yourself, not a long-term win. Long-term wins implementation and culture and retention and all that. A short-term win. And here's what I'm going to have you do right now in the chat. I want you to write down one thing you're going to commit to right now, because we know, and here's the real stats, writing down a goal increases likelihood of success by 42%. And publicly, that's this group, we're public, committing to it increases that success rate to 65. So in that chat, whether you want to or not, this time I'm going to tell you, you should. You don't really have to. I can't make you. Can't come over the screen and do it. But I would love for you to have a goal for yourself, whatever it is onboarding. Start small, start big, go all in, form a team, set a survey, and drop it in the chat. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, RC Culp. I don't even know that I pronounced that right. I love that one, Whitney. Katie, I think that is one of the things that has changed a lot of the districts here in Northeast Ohio. Seeking employee feedback on a more regular basis has really helped with culture in a lot of my districts. Develop process for supervisors. I love this. I love this. I love it. Nice job. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I only have 1 minute. So I have one last slide, which is my feedback slide. Please, 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 please. I live for feedback. I live for it. So please consider giving me some. It makes me so happy. Even if it's negative, I live for it. It makes me do better. That is my name. That is my email. And then one last quote that I have for you as you roll out and join your next presentation. I think there's 15 more minutes, or a 15-minute break before the last one. But I enjoyed having you today. Again, please feedback, and email if you need, email me if you need anything.
Thank you, Gretchen. Yeah, I definitely took a few notes and took some pictures on my phone of things that I too am going to try, just as far as engagement in a presentation. But at this time, if we have any questions for Gretchen, feel free to put them in the chat. You can also unmute and ask your question. We can give a couple minutes to do some Q&A. I always love your energy too, Gretchen.
I love my job.
All right, we'll give a few minutes for questions. Right, I'm not seeing any pop up. So thank you, Gretchen, for sharing your time with us. I know you'll probably hopefully stick around for the last session here, but we are going to take a 15-minute break. So in this Zoom room at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time, we have Is It Time to Update and Redesign Your Teacher Mentoring Program? In the Zoom room from this morning that has Kelly in it, we have How to Design and Implement an Onboarding System that Reflects and Reinforces Your Culture. So those are our two Zoom sessions that start at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. So again, we're going to take a 15-minute break.